Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest edition of The Mayor and I, with me, Lindsay Khan, speaking to my good friend Nick Buckley, MBE, mayoral candidate for Greater Manchester.
Yep.
Hello, Nick. How are you?
Welcome back off your holiday.
Thank you very much.
With your fantastic tan.
As you can see, I've gone nice and brown, just from a couple of days in the sun in Portugal. And last week's edition was an international edition where we talked only about Manchester.
Yep.
But this week, now that I'm back in Manchester, we're going to talk about international issues again. So that's the rationale, basically. So we covered a lot of things about the candidacy and Andy Burnham last time. We're going to talk about Andy Burnham again today, hopefully, in connection with something very close to my heart, which is Manchester United. And by the way, we thrashed Liverpool in the FA Cup quarter-final.
Was you there?
This week. I wasn't, unfortunately, because I was flying back from Portugal, and I was actually driving to the airport, so I'd seen the half-time result, and then by the time I got to the airport, I looked, I didn't know what was going on. It just looked crazy, but it was a fantastic result for Man United, so we've got to talk about Man United this time. What I'd like to talk about first is something that you and I have talked about on 2 or 3 occasions now, and I keep coming back to it because I find him fascinating, the man, and I am convinced that there's something happening here that we don't all fully understand. And I watched a couple of interviews with him, one on GB News with Neil Oliver. I don't know if you saw that one. And it's about George Galloway, the MP for Rochdale. So what I wanted to ask you about is, and I do find him fascinating. Firstly, I'll ask a number of questions. You can answer them after I've kind of related them. First question I want to ask is he a demagogue? Basically, is he a kind of one policy person who's winning as a result of that? That's what I want to know. But he's also referenced, when I was watching this particular interview, what he called the Uni Party, and I don't know if you've heard of this before. And what he means, I think, by the Uni Party is basically Labour, Conservative, probably even the SDP, he regards that as one party. And I think he uses the terminology, colourful terminology, arses or cheeks on the same arse, basically. But it's interesting because you and I have discussed that as well. We've said we see, or I've certainly said, I see no difference between Labour and the Conservative. And I think the best thing for the country is for them both to be gone, basically. So really, George Galloway, again, is he a demagogue? Is he a flash in the pan? Is it not important what's happened there, or is it something transformational?
He's the right man for the right time, at the right by-election, in the right area. He's been here before. He had a party once called the Respect Party, and he became an MP through them. And before that, he was a big Labour Party supporter at MP. He's hit a zeitgeist at the moment with the Gaza issue, with the Labour councillor being kicked out of the party at the same by-election. The Green Party member got kicked out. The Lib Dems almost got kicked out because their candidate were promoting George Galloway. The by-election was absolutely crazy. The Conservative candidate went on holiday in the middle of the election because he had it booked a year. So he won for many, many reasons. He is right about the Uni Party, and we've been talking about this for ages. I've been talking about it for several years now. It doesn't matter if you vote green or blue. You basically get the same policies with slight twists at the edges. One will do it quicker, one will do it harder, one will do it faster, one will spend more money, one will spend less. But it's all the same policies. He hasn't shown up anything new. He hasn't shown us any different cracks in our political system. He was just at the right place, the right time to take advantage of that. He commented on one of my tweets the other day. Brilliant. I tweeted after he won, I wonder if George Galloway is going to run for Mayor of Greater Manchester, or if he doesn't do it personally but somebody in his party, because if he does, he could damage Andy Burnham and damage him so badly that he ends up never being an MP again and never running to be Prime Minister again and ruin his career. And George Galloway commented on my tweet, interesting. And then last week I bumped into a member of his political party, and I asked him the same question, and he said, we are discussing that, standing someone against Andy Burnham. So you never know.
That would be fascinating. One thing he did say in the interview, I think he said it in a few interviews, he says something, I've got 250 people in my pocket at the moment who want to stand for the Workers' Party. And you and I have talked about, this a new person arising, and he isn't a new person, whatever, but a figurehead arising. Because of his, and the Gaza thing, and I think you know my views on Gaza, obviously the killings and people dying is horrific on both sides, and now it does appear that more people have been killed as a result of what happened on October the 7th, and that's a reality. So it's a horrific thing. But I am very vehemently opposed to the reaction around Jews and the anti-Semitic feeling that's arisen as a result of this. But he is hitting the zeitgeist because most people, I think the majority of people, are on the side of the Palestinians in this country. I would say that is the position most people in this country, and I think most Labour supporters support the Palestinians, whether it's the Palestinians, Hamas, Gaza or whatever. I think the majority of them are on that side of the spectrum in terms of their support. Whether you or I like it or not, that's what I believe.
I would disagree.
Okay.
I would say the vast majority of people in the UK don't care. Don't care one way or the other. It's a foreign country they can't find on a map.
Yeah.
They have no idea what a Jew looks like, what a Palestinian looks like, what a Gazan looks like. They all look the same to them.
Yeah.
They're a brownie sort of person.
Yes.
So there's no difference there. Most people don't care. I think you're correct when you say the Labour Party.
Yeah.
Most Labour Party members and supporters have picked sides on this, and they've picked the side of the Palestinians for the simple reason of identity politics. They've been brainwashed over decades that we have oppressors and we have the oppressed.
Yeah.
And for many decades now, Israelis have been designated as the oppressors.
Yeah.
And Palestinians are the oppressed.
I think we've said it before, they're regarded as white, aren't they? White oppressors, even though most of them aren't white.
Yes. Yeah.
So I think you're right, the Labour Party's there, but I think the point I was going to make is there's the Uni Party, which is Labour and Conservative, very little to pick between them, and a lot of people just vote Labour because they've always voted Labour, and then there's Conservatives, a lot of people vote that. But if a party like the Workers' Party emerges that basically expresses the views on Palestine, that Galloway, that the Labour Party, but also talks common sense about the other stuff, because a lot of the points he makes is that the Uni Party, as he calls it, is out of touch with most people, and when you listen to him talk, he makes sense. Apart from Gaza, for me, he makes sense on lots of things that he's saying. So
he does, and he also met with a friend of mine the other day, a gentleman called Billy Howarth, who set up a group 10 years ago called Parents Against Grooming.
Yeah.
So he's been campaigning against children being raped, especially in Rochdale, that's where he's from.
Yeah.
And he met with, and he stood as an independent at the Rochdale by-election as well.
Okay. Yeah.
And last week, George Galloway met him and discussed grooming in the area.
Yeah.
And for him to do that, he's got some brownie points off me for doing that.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it's black and white with George Galloway.
He's painted as the baddie by the Labour Party, because the Labour Party see him as he's a huge threat to us.
Yeah.
That's why we kicked him out of the party in the first place, because we couldn't control him when he was in the party, so we kicked him out.
Yeah.
And damned if we're going to let him have a voice now, we're going to destroy him.
Yeah. He's also condemned by the Conservatives. Rishi Sunak commented on his win, didn't he?
But he was, and the Conservatives will always condemn somebody who is former Labour or left wing, so that goes without saying as well.
Yeah. So my premise here is that, and I agree, I'm not actually sure now that most people don't care about Israel and Palestine. I think most people are now aware of it, whether they like it or not, because of the marches, the demonstrations.
Aware of it,
they're aware of it. And I think a lot of people, as we know, will express an opinion based on what they think is the prevailing wind. So I think most people, what do you think about Israel-Palestine? Oh, it's terrible what's happening to the Palestinians, because that's what, again, we've been told we've got to say. So I think there is that. So, as I say, my point here is, if he does say, here's 200 candidates that I'm going to stand, those candidates, I think, will be standing against mainly Labour.
He's actually said that.
Yes, because That's his natural target area.
He hates the Labour Party.
Yeah.
He's got a point to prove against the Labour Party.
Yeah.
How dare you kick me out of the Labour Party, my party that I've been a member of since a child, and you kicked me out 20, 30 years ago, and you've ruined my name since then. I'll take yous down.
Yeah, yeah. But I think that this is the point with the current, and you've made the point, the zeitgeist at the moment, and this is all, as you say, we never know where the zeitgeist. You didn't realise when BLM started that you, within a short time, you would be kicked out of your charity. And if somebody had said to you, Nick, you know, if somebody had said to you a month before BLM kicked off, if somebody had said to you, Nick, you're very shortly, in about a month's time, you're going to be kicked out of fired from your charity.
I'd have laughed at him. Not a chance in hell.
Yeah.
When I pressed that enter button on that article, people think you were brave doing that. I wasn't brave. No. I was naive. Yes. If I'd have seen the future, would I have pressed that enter button? Because my life changed completely.
Yes.
I'm poorer now than I was.
Yes.
I had a great career.
Yeah.
You know, I just got an MBE. I was seen as that's how you run a charity, and my life changed overnight, and I've never reclaimed that life back. So would I have pressed enter? I don't know. Am I that brave? I don't know. Yeah,
and I think there's a really important point there, because you pressed enter because things were happening around you that you didn't recognise. I'm not saying you specifically, Nick, don't recognise the importance of things.
Yeah, I fully understand.
But things are happening, and this is why I keep coming back to the Galloway thing, because I just think, is this something happening now? Is this a dynamic change? And if he does field 200 candidates of the Respect Party against the Labour Party, do we get another important party? We're seeing the Reform Party now gathering momentum. They're calling it the third party.
Now have their own MP.
So we're seeing a change already in that direction, led by a guy, Richard Tice, who is nothing like as charismatic as Galloway, but is offering an alternative to the Tories. Is Galloway going to be offering that real alternative to Labour, and is that going to generate seats in Parliament for a new party on one side? We've already got, as you say, Respect has already got one. So Reform has already got one MP. Are they going to win a few more in the next election? And is Galloway, with his charisma and his specific focus on Labour, going to win a lot of Labour seats?
I don't think so. I think George Galloway will be a flash in the pan. He may not even win his seat again at the general election at the end of the year, depending on the situation in Gaza at the time.
Yeah.
I think that's what's allowed him to win. If we do have new leaders coming through and people who will change Britain for the future, they're not going to be the old politicians we've got now. I class him as one of the old politicians because he's been around for 30, 40 years. He's got a lot of baggage. There's people who love it. It's a bit like Nigel Farage. People love him or they hate him. And that's the same with Nigel Farage. Those people are not the future because they're too divisive. Even if it's their fault or not, it's how they're perceived. And we need new leaders coming through. So I don't think he is. I think he'll be a footnote in the change that's coming.
But then again, if you look into Europe, Marine Le Pen is now polling higher than Emmanuel Macron, whose wife we now found out is a man. I don't know if you've seen the news about that. So
you're joking?
That's the current story.
Right.
Happening on the. I put that down on the list today.
I thought for years the story was she was his school teacher.
Yes, so he was 15 and she was 36 when they met.
Right.
And the story doing the rounds allegedly now is that she's a transsexual. She's a man, or she was a man, raised as a man, and basically.
Surely that would have come out by now.
Yeah, I think the problem with this one is there's not much evidence being raised by her or her. I think Macron's actually had to come out and say no, it's not true. But there's not kind of that much evidence saying that she isn't a man, if that makes sense. Because what they're saying is, it's complicated. I'm sure our dear listeners aren't interested, but what they're saying is that she had an elder brother, but she was actually the elder brother. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of goes through it. But anyway.
Yeah. So I think that sounds like a slur to me. They use the same now on Michelle Obama.
Yes, they call her Big Mike, don't they?
It's a man.
Yeah.
And it's just the latest slur.
Yeah.
And I think it's also to lead them into a trap. I dare you to say, I'm not a man, then you can say, oh, something wrong with being transsexual. Is there?
Yeah,
So I think,
what have you got against trannies?
Yeah. So I think they then go against it too much and say this is outrageous. Oh, it's outrageous to change gender.
How dare you say I'm a
So it's a bear trap they've laid for them, but it's also an insult as well.
Yeah, how dare you say I'm a trans woman. So the point I was making, Marine Le Pen is now ahead of Macron.
Yep, she is. But she's been working on that for several decades.
Geert Wilders won the most seats ever this time. These guys have been around for a long time as well, but they are now emerging again, aren't they? So I think Farage could emerge again if he does actually throw his lot in with the Reform Party. Now they've got a new MP and things like that. For the first time, there could be a possibility they're going to win some seats because people are so disenfranchised with the Tories anyway. And the Labour thing is a wrinkle, I think, that Starmer didn't expect. He didn't expect Galloway to emerge like he has done. And it's kind of, Starmer's the most indecisive person you can see. So he doesn't know what to do now, does he? And also the fact he's also been, once again on the fence about the Israel-Palestine, or more on the side of Israel than on Palestine. Again, it kind of, makes it difficult for him. I mean, they manage to shoot themselves in the foot time and time again, these guys. So I'm not sure. I think we should wait and see, and we may, when we're having this
It's an interesting time. It's an interesting time to see what happens at this general election, because there's that many players involved now, so many levers being pulled for the next general election. It's not a two-horse. It's a two-horse race you'll win, but who can affect the two horses winning and losing? There's many external players now, and we don't know how they're going to affect the two horses.
Now, just talking about Emmanuel Macron's wife and those subjects.
I've missed this in the press.
Something, and we had a brief chat about this before. I'll just alert our listeners to the fact you've been slightly briefed on this, but not really. So just to give some background to this is why, again, this story fascinated me, and I'd be interested in your opinion on it. Before COVID, I would say a year before COVID, I was totally woke. I would say I believed all the stories. I watched the BBC. I was interested in what the politicians.
You never had any reason not to believe.
I never had any reason not to believe that. I dismissed conspiracy theories or whatever. Then, just in the run up to COVID, my wife, I think I've told you before, Anna, got very heavily engaged in the trans activist thing. Supporting Gremlin, and we've talked about him before. And then I started to read some of the stuff, because she'd be sitting on it, as you know what it's like, Nick, sitting on the city, I don't believe it, what is it? And then I started to see these things happening with the trans movement, and I couldn't believe it either. I was shocked and got actively involved, I think I told you on Twitter. So I was starting to turn, pre-COVID, from being a sucker, basically, one of the sheep, in my opinion, to swallowing, I think, did they call it swallowing the red pill or the blue pill? The red pill, to taking the red pill. And I think and then COVID happened. And when Rishi Sunak, whoever it was, he was the one who said, it was Boris, wasn't it? But Sunak was involved as well. Said, you're going to be locked down from such and such. And by the way, we're going to start paying people's wages. Because as a businessman, I was worried about the businesses. But then suddenly, this was like, oh, fantastic, we can pay people. But when it happened, I thought, there's something wrong here. This just doesn't make any sense. This reaction to a disease that kills a tiny percentage of people who catch it, the masks, there's no medical evidence around masks working, the nonsense around the vaccines going from, if you have the vaccine, you'll be fully protected, never catch COVID, to, you'll catch COVID, but you won't transmit it. Next, you will catch COVID, and you will transmit it. And all these people contradicting themselves. And I was reading the medical literature on it. I was watching all the people being shown time and time again. I saw decisions being made. I then started to understand, the world is not as I believe it to be. And I think you and I met during COVID.
Yep.
Because I think I started going to the Free Speech Union, and that's where we met. And so my opinions on things have changed completely, to the point that now when somebody says, this is a conspiracy about, I'm like, actually, I'm interested in hearing more about this, because it might be a conspiracy, because there's so many things that have been happening around. So something happened last week, and I don't think you're aware of it. I'm going to make you more aware of the detail now. and ask you what is going on. So Kate Middleton has been, and by the way, I didn't realise before we started, but just to let the listeners know, Nick is a massive monarchist, a major supporter of the royal family.
I would say massive, but I am.
And I really like the Queen a lot, actually. So you were nervous that I might head into anti-monarch, but regardless of that, I don't have those opinions. But
I just didn't know what.
It wouldn't matter if I did.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
So Kate Middleton has been ill and out of the public eye. Apparently she's been in hospital. Nobody knows what for.
Yeah.
And so almost as a demonstration, everything's fine. A picture was released last week of her with her three. Is it 3 children?
Yeah.
Or 3? She's got 3 kids. I'm not that, as you can tell, I'm not that interested in those things anymore. But then it was immediately withdrawn, or within a very short space, because somebody within the press noticed it had been photoshopped, but photoshopped weirdly. So if you could imagine a hand and a sleeve of one of the children, the finger and part of the sleeve was missing. It was actually being cut out of the photograph. So it wasn't like a bit of touching up. It was pictures had clearly been transposed on top of each other, or potentially people had been placed in the and I saw that and I thought, what the hell is going on? What is going on in the, I actually started to think, do these people actually exist? Do these people actually exist that they're rolling out in front? And we're seeing things on AI now that are phenomenal in terms of that. And I actually started to think, when the conspiracies are going out, what is going on? Is she actually in that picture, or is she still in hospital? Are the kids actually there, or are they in different countries? What is happening? And no real clear explanation was given. I think the statement was released saying she was a photographer, amateur photographer, but I don't know any amateur photographers who will do that with a picture, splice in a child into a different position so that they would be, so the hand is missing, splicing that on top. But you get those sort of things when you artificially create images of people. That's what you get. So you see that and you think, what the hell is going on? And there's all sorts of stories. I don't know if you're aware recently, but one of the best friends of is William, the Prince. Is he the eldest one? He's the one that's married to Kate. As an arch royalist, you'll know all these.
He's
people.
the Prince of Wales. He's the future king.
Yes. You need some pictures on your wall of the royal family. The Prince of Wales, one of his best friends, possibly his best man, I don't know, committed suicide recently. Did you hear about that? And so there's all sorts of stories, I won't go into the gory details, relating to him, his wife, William, Kate, and the reasons Kate's in hospital and all those. I'll tell you that maybe after the conversation. And I just thought, is this stuff happening? Is it as crazy? Are they as crazy as they seem? Are they living these weird lives that we don't know anything about, these people? Because the picture in itself just made me start to then question that. What do you think about that?
They do live weird lives because they live in a goldfish bowl, and she knows she's going to be queen, he's going to be king, one of their children's going to be king. So they try to portray themselves as normal, as just like us, but they're not like us. So they are leading this double life. But the simple explanation for the photo for me is, do you think the royal family, if they were going to doctor photos and release them, and it was all part of a conspiracy theory, do you think they'd miss a child's thumb off the photo? Or do you think they would have somebody who knows how to doctor photos, how to cut photos? AI can do it now perfectly if you know how to use AI. The explanation I read was she came out and said she did it. She was editing the photo, playing with the photo, cutting things out, trying to make the nice photo she possibly could to release. And that was the best she could do. And that's quite a believable story for me, because if they were if there was part of the organisation of the monarchy for control and PR, they would have people working on that who would be professionals, who me and you in a million years would never be able to tell that photo had ever been doctored.
Yes, but what you're doing is defeating your own argument here, because what you're basically saying to me is the Princess of Wales, or whatever she's called, Kate Middleton, is allowed to, despite having a massive, if you think about the infrastructure and the apparatus that exists around the royal family, somebody's allowed her to doctor a photo, not bothered checking it, allowed it to be submitted to the national global press.
Yeah.
There's no way that would happen. There's no way they would say, she'd say, oh, here, I've done this photo. And someone would go, oh, that's lovely, Kate. I'll send it out to the press right now.
50 years ago, you'd have been right. But things have been changing in the royal family. It's impossible to control those individuals like we used to. A good example would be, we had Prince Andrew visiting a convicted paedophile in America and staying in his house after he'd been convicted as a paedophile.
Yeah.
And the royal family didn't know until it all came out in the press. They're not as controlled as we think they are. They're still controlled, but not as much as they used to be, because you can't do that to modern people anymore now. They just won't have it. Same. The other extreme would be Meghan Markle. She didn't even like any sort of control of what she said and did, hence why she fell out with the whole family.
But everything Meghan Markle and Harry send out is very, very carefully curated.
Because they've got PR teams behind.
Yeah, so you cannot tell me that the future king and the future queen of England do not have massive PR teams around them.
Only if they want it. Only if they want it. The whole in this story for me is no professional team would allow that photo to go out if professionals designed it. It's an amateur's work. For people to look at it straight away and go, doctored, that's amateurs.
Or maybe the actual thing is no professional team should have let that go out, but there was a slip up and we got a glimpse behind the veil of what's actually happening.
No. That, again, is right into conspiracy theory.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. Before COVID, before all the stuff I'm seeing, I would have said, I would have said exactly the same as you. But clearly you're still captured, so it's going to take you time to get to this point.
I based my views on evidence and the likelihood of conspiracy theories. Some conspiracy theories turn out to be true.
Yeah.
Most of them haven't been proven yet. And there's an episode of South Park. Do you ever watch South Park?
No, I don't. I know it's supposed to be good. I actually need to start watching
it. They did an episode on South Park about the 9/11 conspiracy. And it turned out it was the president, George Bush, started the conspiracy theory about 9/11. So everybody would talk about the conspiracy theory and not blame him for being incompetent.
Right.
So there is an argument, that's a conspiracy theory that they're created by the elite to stop people looking for the real answer, because it's more entertaining to look at these wild answers.
Yeah. But let's, I know you don't like talking about COVID, but let's talk about the biggest conspiracy theory, COVID. The stuff we were told at the time is now proven to be conspiracies.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
Wuhan, they're now pretty certain it did start in the lab.
Yeah, of course it did.
They're now pretty certain that the vaccines are killing people, giving massive causing major heart concerns to all sorts of people. They're now certain that big money was behind the vaccines because it had massive impacts on all sorts of people, including people linked directly into the government, made millions, if not billions, out of this. So that, which was very public, we're now finding out the conspiracy theories were right.
We're completely correct, yeah.
Yeah. So for me, this next step, when I see this, is, did they do that, doctor that out because it was actually a lizard's claw poking out of that?
Or maybe these people just don't exist.
So this is.
Have you ever met?
I've not. The only person I've ever seen is. Did you not get to meet the Queen when you got your MBE or something?
It was during COVID, so everything got delayed, and then they had 2 years backlog, and I said, send me my medal in the post. I just don't want to be a hassle. Yeah,
but maybe but sorry, in terms of yes, I saw the Queen once when I was a student at Manchester University. I went on a protest, and it's typical because I was a typical Labour voting student. Then
it was her.
I went on a protest. That's true, and I had my placard. But she was so sweet. I put my placard down and started clapping. I thought she was really. She had real charisma. I thought.
Yeah.
The Queen.
I'm not a monarchist because I support the individuals. I support the institution of the monarchy.
Yes.
That's what I support. So I don't necessarily support any of the old people.
Yeah, but they are grubby though, aren't they? They are grubby. I mean, apart from the Queen...
We've lost so much with the death of the Queen. Yeah. Prince Charles, I was hoping he would raise his game and he would be her son. And he's a poor imitation of her son. He gets involved in politics again now.
Yeah.
WEF, going on about the environment and death of the planet. He just needs to represent the institution of the monarchy, and he needs to keep his mouth shut.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're right. But I think in terms of the title for this session needs to be something along the lines of, is Kate Middleton a lizard? Which I think that would be the other one. And the second part needs to be, you know, Nick Buckley, massive pro-royalist.
Do you remember the TV series in the 80s called V?
Yes, I did.
When they were all lizards and pull the face off like that, and he eat snakes and eat mice and stuff.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
So, just moving on now to away from the elites. Again, something really interesting, and I think you and I have talked before about the number of people who are of working age who are not working now. And actually, this may actually roll into the conspiracy theory here. So I think the numbers are something like 6 million people are not working. But what a stats. The National Office of Statistics released some data around these people of working age who are not working. There are now, and this is quite shocking to me, there are now 3 million people under the age of 25 of working age. So we're talking about people from 16 to 25. Yeah. There's 3 million people who are not working, who are basically unemployed. Now, the reason I find this interesting is I know what I was like when I was 18 to 25. Yep. You're young, you've got energy, you're full of ambition and drive and all that sort of thing. And some of the most creative and amazing times in terms of, you look at musicians, scientists, mathematicians, their best years are between sort of 18 and 25. Why would 3 million people of that age with that vim and vigour that must drive through their bodies not want to work or not be ambitious to do and achieve something in their lives? Because it's a bland statistic, isn't it? 6 million people not working, blah, blah, blah. But young people, why would young people not want to work?
This problem has been increasing over several decades. I first noticed this 15 years ago when I was working for Manchester Council, and my job was around stopping kids getting involved in crime. And I dealt with, sometimes 16, 17, 18-year-olds. And I was surprised how many of them didn't work, which didn't surprise me, but how many of them didn't work, didn't sign on because they couldn't be arsed, and lived at home and were supported by usually their mum, who was usually either working or on benefits, because the child couldn't be bothered signing on. It was a hassle. Got to sign on. They're going to ask me to do job searches, and I'm not being spoken to like that. I'm not signing on.
So they had no income.
No income, and sponged off the parents, which usually a single mum, and the mum would allow it, because that's how rich the poor people are in our country now. Is you can be poor on benefits and don't need extra benefits for your children because you can subsidise their lifestyle, and some involved in crime as well. And I remember thinking about that for a long time, thinking, what have we done? When I was growing up, poor people needed benefits. And if you were 16, 17 and not working and didn't want to sign on, your mum and dad would drag you to the job centre to sign on or get a job, because your family needed the money to survive. So we've made life easier for everybody. We also went through a phase then from the 80s onwards of your children are your best friends. So I'm friends with my children now. We go out clubbing together, and we go concerts, and we do this and we do that. You're not best friends with your children. If you're best friends with your children, that just means you're a poor parent. Because your children don't need more friends. They need parents who offer them advice and guidance and discipline and boundaries. That's what they need. So we started mixing that boundary there of parent and friendship. Hence why young people now get away with a lot more now. Again, not claiming benefits, not getting a job. And then, especially from COVID onwards, we now add on mental health. I'm anxious. Can't get a job because I'm anxious. I'm depressed. I feel a little bit, so I can't work. And it's like, oh, well, your mental health is the most important. No, what's the most important thing for you is to kick up the arse. Go take on some personal responsibility and start creating your own life from today. Because, as you know, we don't fall into a great life in our teens. It's hard being a teenager. You're going to be paid poorly, you're going to do crap jobs. But you've got to go through that to get your experience, your knowledge, your work ethic, So then when you get to your 20s and that, you can start earning more money and build the life you want. But you have to start on step one. And young people today feel entitled that I don't want to start on step one of the ladder. I need to go straight to step 5 because I'm special.
What you just said then sounds plausible, but I don't accept it. And the reason I don't accept it is I remember what I was like when I was 18.
Yeah.
And I bet you remember what you were like when you were 18. And when you're that age, and even up to the age of 25, you are incredibly keen to progress yourself, to make money, to be successful, to have a good life. And I can't accept the fact that young people will just be going home and saying, oh, I can't be bothered, I'm going to lie in bed. I could maybe understand it in a 60-year-old like myself. Yeah. I cannot accept it because you're getting knackered when you get to my age. But I cannot really accept it for a 16 to 18-year-old person, because the very essence of human being, of animals, of nature, is that period is a time when they go out and make things happen. You know, an animal, you don't get an animal lying in the bush in the morning thinking, I can't be bothered to, you know, a young lion doesn't lie in the bush in the morning saying, right, I'm just going to lie in bed today because I had a good meal yesterday. They're up and they're out and they're hunting and they're killing and they're doing whatever. I can't believe that drive that exists in human beings is extinguished so easily.
I know. Personally, I know dozens of people like that. Not as bad as it is now, but I was one of them. I wasted my teens and my 20s.
Well, you may have wasted them, but were you ambitious? Did you want to achieve things?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I still had the ambition, but I made lots of mistakes.
Yes.
And went down so many wrong paths.
Yeah.
Trying, but I was ambitious. Young people are no different to everybody else. And we've got a society now that doesn't reward ambition, doesn't reward hard work. We don't even employ people, we have this conversation lots of times, we don't employ people now on merit. We employ people now on identity politics. So when you're growing up in this environment now, where no one values merit in hard work and aspiration, they only value these other new traits, why wouldn't you develop a mental health issue? Because that's one of the traits that gets you brownie points now. Why would you try to work hard? Because if you're working hard, you're a capitalist. Capitalists are evil. You just want money, you evil Nazi. We're sending society the wrong messages all the time, and young people are sponges and they suck up these messages easier than anybody else. We've created a whole generation of weak individuals because that's, as a society, that's what we've created by sending them the wrong messages all the time.
Well, I mean, that's probably a more interesting point, because what you're potentially saying is success or achievement now is measured by the factors you just outlined, which aren't the factors that you and I enjoyed or were interested in as you. So maybe they are working hard, but working hard to show that they're, you know, really woke, that they support Gaza. So maybe that's what they're spending there, and maybe that's how they're measuring their success.
That's how they get their social status now. It's not through working hard the way we class working hard.
Yeah.
It's through, look how many followers I've got on Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm working harder than you, pal, because you don't even have an Instagram.
Yeah.
I'm doing better than you.
Yeah.
And that's not how we judge success in life, me and you.
Yeah.
But that's how the younger generation are beginning to judge success in life. They don't have the same matrix of success that we have.
And maybe there is also now something I've detected recently, a resentment against money, success in this society. You know, certainly.
Yeah,
I think
that's a false dichotomy for them, as in, I don't earn money, I've got no chance of earning money, so therefore I'm going to reject the concept of earning money, because then I'm not a loser anymore. I rejected it.
Yes. It's not that I can't make
money.
I've rejected that because I want to focus on the Manchester Bee and trans people and all that jazz.
How many millionaires do you know who then said, I reject money and gave it all away?
Buddha, apparently.
That's a long time ago.
I just happened to be reading about that.
Yeah, because he was a prince.
Yes, he was from a very wealthy family. There are quite a lot of very wealthy people, second generation wealthy people, who reject it. I don't think there's many who make the money themselves.
No, absolutely. If you've made it yourself, you know the value of money.
Yeah, I mean, I've noticed in business, every now and then we'll come across a business where it's second or third generation. And I've noticed they don't understand the value of the business they have.
No.
which I can imagine the first generation building that business, how hard it was for them, and they would have really appreciated what they built. But I think when it gets to second and third generation, they tend to take it. Third generation specifically tends to take it for granted, almost like it's always been here.
Yeah.
So they don't place a value on it, and that might be part
There's
of
a
it.
phrase that I learned a few years ago about this. The first generation earn the money, second generation spend the money, the third generation destroys everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they did some reports in America looking at rich families, and most of them had lost all the money by third generation.
Yeah, it's very hard to. I think it's very hard for these people, third generations, to retain the money unless it's a really massive organisation. I think I told you, my daughter was in Italy staying with. She was friends with a guy who knew a big American fund manager, and while she was there, one of the heirs of the Cargill dynasty, which is a massive agricultural business, turned up, and I think they're like 10 generations in, but it's a massive global organisation, so it's very hard for them to destroy the value.
And he's also the exception to the rule.
Yes,
as well. There's always exceptions.
Yeah, but she wasn't involved in the businesses there. She's just travelling around. She had her own, did it, whatever, and there was enough money. So you can, if you build it big enough, you can do that. But you're right, a lot of businesses go through that 3-generation phase and then they're gone, basically.
Another way of describing this is the best boxers always come from nothing, because they understand it's the eye of the tiger. They're fighting that hard to make something for themselves and to earn money, that they're willing to go beyond what a well-off person is willing to go beyond. They're willing to put their life on the line to win this fight. Well, when you're a millionaire and still a good boxer, you're willing to put your life on the line, unless you've come from the streets. That's why they make the best boxers, because they're more hungry than someone who's had a comfortable life growing up.
Yeah. Although saying that, Frank Ngannou got knocked out by I forgot his name.
Anthony Joshua.
The
racist.
Yeah. Oh, he's a racist.
Oh, he's an anti-white racist.
All right. It was a good fight.
But he comes from nothing as well.
Yes.
He's a millionaire now, but he came from nothing.
Yeah, but Ngannou came from the mines of the Congo.
Yeah.
But it was a good fight, that. Speaking of boxers, do you know Tony Bellew, the boxer?
Yeah, I've heard his name.
So bizarrely, when I flew back from Portugal, he was on my flight. But when I went to Dubai about 3 months ago, he was also on my flight. So I went up to him and said, "Can you just stop following me around, please, Tony?
Otherwise I'll slap you."
Yes. I pushed him and said, "Keep away from me." He seems like a nice guy, actually, from what I saw. Just moving on to something unrelated, because I think we were just talking about people under 25 working. So this is something I'm going to ask you about, because I really know nothing, in the same way you know nothing about the Photoshop picture.
Before you jump into that, let me give you a stat for the unemployment one, which came out last week. It came out.
Okay.
Only 42% of adults in the UK pay income tax.
Really?
Everybody else is earning under the limit of on benefits.
Wow.
So only 42% of the adults in the UK pay any form of income of
tax.
Income tax.
So that means the other 58% are supporting 42% of. So half the population is supporting the other half.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing stat.
Yeah.
That is. Do you think people realise that?
No. So some of those people who are not paying income tax are earning under 12.5 grand a year.
Yeah.
So they're still working part-time but not paying any tax.
Yeah.
A big proportion of the others will be on benefits, you don't pay tax. But and we keep raising the threshold all the time of when you pay tax.
Yeah.
I would like to reduce how much tax we pay. But I
Drop
think
the threshold
but,
and get
but basically,
get 80%.
if you work in this country, you should pay tax.
Yeah.
Maybe it should start at 5%, then go to 10%, then 15%, 20%, and go up like that. But to keep raising the threshold means people then don't understand what we're doing with their tax money, because they go, "Well, I don't pay tax. It really doesn't affect me."
Yeah.
It should affect you as an adult in this country.
Yeah. That's just a massive burden on that 58% though, isn't it? But within those stats, what percentage of adults actually work though?
They didn't go into that. So I think it's about. I want to guess about 50%.
50% of the adult
I
population.
want to guess about that. That's from what I remember. The working population in the UK is for adults is about 50%. It's huge. So many people not working.
That's really upset me actually.
Mm.
You spoiled my day now. So this question here is about something I started to read, and I'm not joking, Nick. I just couldn't be bothered to read it.
Right.
I couldn't be bothered to read it. I saw the headlines, and I just thought, nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
So pardon my French. Because it was about a lady called Diane Abbott.
Oh, yeah.
A black lady called
I've met
Diane
her.
Abbott.
She's quite nice.
Is she quite nice?
Yeah.
I'm sure she is. And about a chap called Frank Hester.
Yep.
And I started to read it, and I just thought, I just cannot be asked to read this, because I'm just not interested, and I don't think anybody's interested in this. So my question is, well, my first question is, what happened? But the second question is, does anyone really care about Diane Abbott or Frank Hester, or is this just another diversion from the elites?
It's an attack from Labour on the Tories. That's all this is. It's an attack before the election. This incident, I'll talk about the incident in a minute, but this incident is several years old.
Is it?
Yeah,
I thought it was only in the news last couple of weeks ago.
But what he said is several years old. So they've kept hold of that in their bag of tricks. We're going to use this just before the next election, and they've saved it up to use it before the next election. So the Hester guy, I've never heard of him. He's a Conservative donor, I believe. He was being interviewed a couple of years ago and talking about Diane Abbott, and he wasn't friendly about her. He said he can't stand her, and if all black women were like her, well, I'd hate all black women. They've classed that as. Then he said she needs to be taken out and shot.
That's probably gone too far.
I'm not condoning any of his language.
Yeah. Well, I'd be interested to analyse the first thing he said, which is, because actually what's wrong with that? If he doesn't like Diane Abbott, and he says, if all black women were like Diane Abbott, I wouldn't like any of them.
Yeah.
If he said, if she was a redhead, and he said, if all redheads were like Diane Abbott, I'd hate the lot of them. What is wrong with saying that?
It's rude.
Yeah, it's rude, yeah.
But that's it. That's all I can come... It's rude. I wouldn't say it. It's not a nice thing to say.
Yeah.
But it's rude. It's not racist.
Yeah. You're allowed to be rude.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah. You're allowed to be racist.
Yeah.
You can still use any words you want to say as long as you don't break the law.
Yeah.
So if you want to say, I don't like black people...
Yeah, you can say that.
You can say that.
Yeah.
As long as you don't then say, and that's why I'm not giving you the job.
Yes.
Or that's why I'm assaulting you.
Yeah.
Then you're not broken any laws.
Yeah.
So I don't think he was racist, what he said. Then he was crude with, we need to take her out and shoot her.
That's inappropriate.
Again, rude, inappropriate.
But you're probably right, not illegal.
Not illegal, and he wasn't inciting violence because he was joking.
Yeah.
I've got something to talk to you about in a minute, about something like that. So it was, so it's something I wouldn't say, and I don't think he should have worded what he was saying, but he was trying to be funny, in a humorous sort of way. I'm sure it didn't come across as humorous, but it was a great opportunity for Labour Party supporters to attack the Tories, attack a Tory donor, and also give Diane Abbott some brownie points because she's been kicked out of the Labour Party for being a racist herself.
She has, yes.
So now they're using this to try to get her back into the Labour Party, saying, hasn't she suffered enough? Look at the racist abuse. I mean, she gets a lot of racist abuse, does Diane Abbott.
Yeah.
She's probably the most abused person in Parliament.
Yeah.
All inappropriate. We should not be abusing people like that, even when we don't like the individual and want to rally against their policies. We should be nice about it. So I met her, and she was lovely when I met her.
Yeah.
And she opened up. I was running a community centre in Hackney, and we'd had a refurb or something, and we invited her, and she came down to sort of open it and stuff like that. Maybe nice. So she gets a lot of abuse. She really does get a lot of abuse. But this was a storm in a teacup for those reasons. Now, if you want to talk about hate crime, we got into trouble last week.
Did we?
We did.
Great.
Do you remember the joke I made about I'm going to build a wall between Manchester and Merseyside?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, people didn't like that. Some people didn't like that. But one person accused me of being racist towards Scousers.
Yeah. Although Scousers aren't a race.
No.
Yeah.
We had somebody who said he was a Mancunian and isn't going to vote for me now because He thought I was a serious politician and not a man down the pub. So I've lost his. And I was on Talk TV on Sunday afternoon.
Yeah.
And the presenter on Talk TV raised it.
Oh, really?
And shown the clip and said, is that the sort of thing a serious politician talks about? So I said...
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Was I on the clip? Oh, was
yeah. No, you was on the clip as
well. Was
well.
it one where we were doing this, or was it when I was abroad?
Zoom, it was a Zoom on abroad.
Oh, I bet I wasn't on it, was I?
No, you was on it.
Oh, brilliant.
Because you're laughing at one point and stuff like that. Another guy called us a couple of fat gammon racists.
Which I'm definitely not.
So we're infamous.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah. And then I got an email off Diane Abbott saying she hopes I'm okay. Kidding.
That's great news.
Yeah.
Well, that's great that provoked that reaction. That's interesting, isn't it? Because that is symbolic of a lot of what's wrong now.
Yeah.
You know, you make it a joke, which is obviously a joke.
Obvious joke. I'm impersonating Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I'm going to build a big, beautiful wall.
Of course, it was obviously a joke. It was it was obviously a parody of Trump.
Yeah.
But also, it was about Scousers and whatever. So, but it's obviously a joke.
Yeah.
It makes me laugh because it's a joke. But people are so precious now, aren't they? So things like that. I
don't think they're precious. I think they're looking for any opportunity to make themselves look virtuous.
Yes. Yeah.
They all knew it was a joke.
Yeah.
Every single one of them knows it's a joke.
Yes.
They're just looking either to have a go at me because I'm a Mancunian and they're a Scouser, or they're Labour Party supporters and don't like me, so here's the way I've gone. Or it's normal people going, I can look a bit virtuous here by saying, Nicholas, you shouldn't be saying things like that.
But what you should have, was it Sunday on Talk?
Yeah.
So what you should have said, clearly I'd been vindicated by today's results in the football.
It's not football. It was before the football.
That's what you should have said. Is well, let's see how the match goes today.
Well, I would have dig then. Yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. That is. Yeah. But it's interesting, isn't it? People are looking to be offended, looking to score points, looking to show their future. And that we've talked about the British sense of humour before, haven't we? How it's kind of disappeared. And I think that's an example of it, isn't it? And 10 years ago, if you'd have made that joke, nobody would have even commented on it. Possibly most people would have laughed about it. And there's absolutely nothing offensive about it in any way. It's clearly a joke. It references not a race, but a
football rival.
Yeah, exactly. A football rival. It's a perfectly if you go to a match at Old Trafford, if you went this last Sunday, if you want to hear people shouting vitriol against Scousers and against people from Manchester, that's but nobody cares about that, do they? It's all done in relatively good humour. So,
but after the game, the police arrested 7 people. Really? Man U fans for referencing the Hillsborough disaster, chanting and shouting.
Oh really? Can you be arrested for that?
You can do, yeah.
Why? So why can you be arrested?
It would be public order.
Oh, inciting! Oh, public assault, inciting assault. Oh, so they were doing it to a group of Scousers, were they? Yeah.
Again, police shouldn't be involved in this.
Yeah.
If the stadium wants to ban people as a private business, you can ban who you want from your business, your football ground. I'm not saying they should be banned. I'm just saying that's down to a business. To then have I think it was Greater Manchester Police. Where was the game played at? Was it
Old Trafford?
Oh, right. So it would have been Greater Manchester Police. To then on scene investigate the complaints and arrest people when we have criminals out there.
Yeah.
And no, we shouldn't be arresting. Even if it was Liverpool fans screaming about Munich to Man U fans, well, I still would say, no, that's not a policing matter.
Well, did you see on, this isn't on our list today, but did you see that clip on one of the marches, the pro-Palestinian marches? What are those marches? Are they pro-Palestinian or...
Free Palestine.
Free Palestine, River to the Sea thing, which is actually a genocidal chant. But there was a guy standing there, perfectly harmlessly, holding up a poster saying Hamas is a terrorist organisation. You see that?
Yeah.
And
which is government policy.
Which is government policy. This is the law of the land, if you like. He was attacked first by
a few of them tried to grab off him in the
physical assault. But then he was. I don't know if he was arrested, but he was
arrested
by the police.
Yeah, he was arrested.
So
he was arrested for assault,
even though he didn't assault anybody.
Yeah, and then the police reviewed their footage and then de-arrested him because he was assaulted. He didn't assault anybody.
Yeah.
By that point, the police had took his sign off him, and he couldn't have it back. So the police stole his private property.
That to me
Shocking.
It is shocking.
Shocking. The police saw what he was doing and went, we can't have him stood there because he's going to be assaulted. He's going to cause a riot. We would rather impinge his freedom.
Rather than protect him.
Yeah, they didn't. The police all over the country, but especially in London, they just want the status quo. Not because they agree with the marchers. They just don't want any trouble because they're scared of what the press will say. And those instructions come from the politicians above the police. So the mayor has instructed the chief constable of the Met and said, I don't want any trouble. I want no trouble on the street. So you can shout what you want and do what you want because there's more of them. We just don't want any trouble. Where the police should be going in with horses and batons when it's illegal.
So a man with your clarity of vision around this particular point still won't accept that Kate Middleton might be a lizard. This is a bit, you can see this happening in the capital. The elites creating that environment, but you're not prepared to accept there might be something wrong with Kate. But anyway, that's fine. We'll move on. Talking about the elites, and this is interesting. And I think there's a black female presenter on America. Is it Candace Owen?
I love Candace Owens.
Candace Owen. She is. Yeah, I don't watch her that often, but when I do watch her,
she's fair. You don't mess with Candace Owens.
Yeah,
she's
highly articulate, highly. And I'm going to say anti-woke, but it's not just that. She just talks common sense.
Yeah.
And she dissects things really very well. Anyway, so the Oscars. So again, going back to my pre-COVID days, I would, as an avid watcher of the Oscars, I used to run up to the Oscars.
I've never watched the Oscars because it's very rarely they award a film that I think's any good.
Yes, and I think you're right.
And that's been all my childhood. They never award anything that I think
you're right. Every now and then they do, but generally it's awarded for things that are very obscure and for actually often very dreary films, I think. However, I was an avid watcher, used to watch it, love all the razzmatazz and all that sort of thing. Would have loved to have gone
You were woke, weren't you?
I would have loved to have gone to Elton John's post-Oscar party, but I was never invited. Yeah. But now, they've also, I don't know if they've changed the criteria. I think we discussed this in a previous... They've changed the criteria.
I don't know, but can I guess it?
Yes, go on.
So, I don't know, but let me guess. There will be now no male or female best actress. It'll be just best actor.
Yeah, I think so.
Is there a category now for best black actor?
No.
Is there a category for most diverse film?
Yeah, no. But what they've said is, if you don't have black actors, disabled actors, whatever, you won't be considered for an Oscar. So what they're saying now is, unless you have a diverse cast and crew, you're not going to get anywhere near the Oscars.
Right.
So you've got to have a black person in the or a Chinese person or whatever in the actual film itself, and your crew has got to have the right mix. There's got to be a certain number of women, men, black. So it's basically saying we're going to take away all your creativity from the basis we want. Forget meritocracy and good people who make good films. You've got to employ all these people in your film, basically. Not the best actors, not the best directors, not the best producers, but ones that fulfil diversity criteria.
Hence why we don't make any decent films anymore.
So, the Oscars. So I didn't watch the Oscars, but I watched Candace Owen talking about the Oscars, and she specifically focused on two things. There's an actor called John Cena, who is
he's a big Muslim.
Yeah, he's a former wrestler basically. Yeah. And he came on naked on stage.
I heard that. I didn't see it, but I heard that. Yeah.
So he was. You couldn't see his penis, but he came on carrying. So
that's because it was really small.
Possibly, yeah. It was quite a big card. If you, so I'm not. I'll do the research on his penis size subsequently. So that happened first. Then there was a Jewish director who made a film about the Holocaust, who came on and denounced Israel on stage, and then multiple members of the audience, and you might have to tell me what the significance of this, were wearing red badges, which apparently, I don't know if you know what that means. Apparently, I meant to look it up before I came today. So what Candace Owen was saying, and I've again, having not taken the red pill 4 or 5 years ago, I realised what she said was making total sense. What she basically saying was normalisation of messages, ideas and things that the elites want to be commonplace happens at places like this.
And has been for decades.
Yeah. So nudity of men and women or whatever. They want it to be acceptable for all sorts of creepy reasons. So let's get a nude man on the stage because that makes it acceptable. Yeah. Not just to the adult generation, the children as well. It's okay for a naked man to come on stage. Normalisation of a hatred of Israel will make that happen by making a Jewish film representative of our academy, one of our people, denounce Israel on stage. And we'll allow it to happen, by the way, because the Oscars is fully scripted. They know what's going to happen when people come on stage. And by the way, we'll have everybody in the audience wearing this red badge, which maybe our listeners can educate us as to what it means, but it's something to do with Israel or Palestine or something like that, the red badge. So what Canasone is saying, this is where it's happening, guys. If you want to see the future, if you want to see what the elites want us to swallow and accept, you're seeing it now, and it starts, this is one of the major places it starts. Do you think that's true?
I agree, but it's been going on for decades. 20 years ago, you would have got an Oscar, stood on stage, and you would have talked about climate change. You'd have talked about the hole in the ozone. You would have talked about being gay. 10 years ago, they went through a phase that every woman who stood up and won an Oscar was talking about, I've won this for womankind because we're now winning Oscars and I'm a female director and this and that. And so I remember an action guy discussing, I can't remember his name now, but anyway, he discussed the environment a couple of years ago as well when he won his Oscar. It's always gone on. It's the elite preaching to the elite, but going one step further so they're even more virtuous. And the best person who takes down all these people is Ricky Gervais. When he used to do the Golden Globes.
Yes.
And he'd stand there and he'd rip them all apart. And, because he knew they're all hypocrites. They're all talking about environment, but most of them flew there in private jets. They're talking about being kind, and in the audience are paedophiles who later on got arrested. They've got many of these Oscar winners on stage praising who was the producer who was a paedophile? Epstein?
No, it was
Harvey Weinstein.
Harvey Weinstein,
praising him before he got arrested. He made my career, and all of a sudden he's now in jail. And now it's like, I don't know him. They're all big hypocrites.
Well, lots of the female stars didn't comment on Harvey Weinstein because they probably succumbed to his charms, I would imagine, to get roles at various points. So for the first, I didn't watch it now, but perhaps I should have watched it to realise what the hell everybody's now trying to promote in this.
The naked man bit.
The
naked man bit would have been to increase the reports of the Oscars, because the most reported and most watched Oscars for many decades was the one where Will Smith slaps Chris Rock in the face. Because controversy happens, so that was shown again and again and again. People talk about the Oscars and that what. So the naked man on stage, I reckon, was a stunt, approved. Do you know what? All the press will be talking about this tomorrow because no one else is watching the Oscars. Unless there's controversy, no one cares. So we need to create a bit of controversy.
I think the viewing figures have plummeted, actually.
I've been doing it for about 10 years. Jumping every year, jumping down.
So do you think the Will Smith, Chris Rock incident was staged then?
No, absolutely not.
Oh, you think it was genuine?
Absolutely genuine, Chris Rock's extremely upset about it. You can tell when he speaks about it and makes jokes about it.
Really?
He's absolutely disgusted with Will Smith.
Yeah.
Will Smith went down in everyone's estimation.
Well, I think just Will Smith just came across as a bit thick in that moment.
He came across as a cook, as a cuckold, someone who is under the thumb by his wife.
Because he was actually laughing.
He laughed at the joke until he saw her face and she scowled at him, and he got up and slapped him.
And she treats him terribly. I mean, whether this is all made up as well.
No, she's admitted it all on TV. She was having their marriage is not exclusive. She can sleep with whoever she wants to. She was sleeping with it's either her son or Will Smith's son, because Will Smith's got children from another marriage. So Will Smith's son, she was sleeping with his best mate, who's also an up and coming rapper. That's all been in the press. She's admitted it. She got Will Smith to come on her own podcast to talk about it with him. So how do you feel about that, Will? That I'm sleeping around and I'm a bit of a tart. And Will Smith, he's almost in tears. She she has destroyed. She's destroyed an action hero, because that's what he always portrayed himself as, an action hero. I used to love Will Smith's films.
I
can't watch his films anymore now because
you know he's a weakling.
He's a weakling. He just acts like a man because he's an actor. But he's a weakling, and she's extremely damaged. On one of her podcasts, which I saw, part of it, she was talking about when she was 13 years old, how her grandmother taught her to masturbate.
What?
And it's like, no wonder you're damaged, girl. No wonder you're damaged. She was in love with Tupac. They were boyfriend, girlfriend.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Is this Jaden Pinkett Smith?
Yeah, her. So she was involved with...
She's very small. She's only about that tall.
Yeah, very small. So she's not got over Tupac, who was the love of her life. She still, from what I've read, she still writes love letters to Tupac.
He's dead, isn't he?
Yeah, he's dead, but she still writes to Tupac. She's damaged
as mad as
goods.
a box of frogs by the time.
She's damaged goods, and she's destroyed him.
Yeah.
But he needed a strong woman because he's a weak man.
Yeah.
But he picked the wrong strong woman.
They've dropped even further in my estimation now. I didn't know all that stuff.
No.
But I didn't realise you were such big fans of the Smiths.
Well, he's done some of my favourite films. The Bad Boys series are probably...
Yeah, I've never watched that series.
Oh, they're fantastic films.
Have you seen what's it? Legend.
I Am Legend.
I Am Legend. Yeah.
With zombies. Yeah, he's making part 2 to that.
That is a brilliant film.
Yeah. The only films he can make now, he's ruined his career. The only films he's making now are sequels.
Yeah.
He's making Bad Boys 4. Bad Boys 5 is being written. He's making I Am Legend 2. He's making the one with the aliens that blow up the White House. Independence Day.
He's making... Yeah, he was in
three.
the...
He's making 3 on that.
Yeah.
Because they're the only films he can make now because the studios...
Nobody wants him for a lead, yeah.
Not for a new film, because you take a chance on a new film, but a rehash of an old film, a sequel's guaranteed money.
Yeah.
They're the only films he can get now are sequels. He's ruined his career.
Yeah, his career's over.
Because people like me now go, not watching him in a new lead and I can't stand him anymore.
Yeah. Maybe we should start to make this into a movie review channel.
We should do. Yeah.
You could come on nude.
Or we rename the podcast The Bad Boys.
God. That means I'd have to start watching them. So I thought that was very interesting what Candice Owen was saying about the Oscars, and I think she's right.
Yeah.
I think she's right. I think they've got their own crazy ideas, and they try and force them on, normalise them through vehicles like the Oscars, and you know,
it's virtue signaling to each other.
Yeah. As I said, I didn't watch it, so I only became aware of it when I watched their podcast. I'd like to move on to extremism now, which we kind of touched on a little bit here. So Michael Gove, who, I don't know what his title is in government now, I don't know what his role is.
He's the Minister for Waste of Space.
Minister of Waste of Space. He's, for some reason, in that role, it was given to him to define extremism for the government. You know, I'm glad to see the spending time, our taxpayers' money valuable here. So he defined extremism, and I can't remember what the definition, but it was some nebulous statement he made. Then he started naming extremist groups that are a threat to this country. Yeah. And the first 2 groups he named were not Islamic extremist groups, which I regard as the greatest threat to this country, but white right-wing groups that I've never heard of, basically. And I thought I'd written down the names of these two groups, so I haven't written them down. But they're basically 2 groups that I've never heard of before.
Yeah.
And then after that, he then started naming a chain of then Islamic extremist groups. Now, my issue with this is those 2 groups he named first, and I don't know what they're like, and I don't know what their politics are like, and I suspect they're tiny groups anyway. The reason when I flew back from Portugal, when I flew out to Portugal, it took me half an hour to get through securities not because of them, but because of Islamic extremists. Yeah. Because of actions taken by terrorist organisations, Islamic terrorist organisations that over the years have done things like 9/11, have blown things up, have all suicide vests, all those things. Yeah. Most of those are perpetrated, unless I'm wrong in my stats here, but I think I'm right, by extreme Islamic organisations, of which there are many in this country. The things that prevent the reason they have massive concrete pillars around Westminster, lots of places now, and at airports, is because of Islamic extremism or examples of those, and they're trying to prevent those happening again. I'm not aware of anything, and maybe you can enlighten me, Nick, of anything that these two groups, supposedly right-wing groups, have done that would require them to be at the top of the list. Are you aware of something that I'm not aware of?
No, my memory, there's only been 2 far-right terrorist attacks that I can think of in the last 20, 30 years. One was the killing of Joe Cox, the MP, during the Brexit referendum, which was horrific. He is believed to have shouted Britain first as he stabbed her or shot her, whatever he did. And the other one was a guy who drove to a mosque in a van and drove into someone coming out of the mosque. They're the only 2 I know of. Both of them I condemn. Don't see anyone being injured. But then when we look at radical Islam, we're looking at the bombings in London on the tube station, on the bus. We're looking at 9/11 in America. We're looking at the beheading of a soldier in London, Lee Rigby. We're looking at stuff all the time.
We're looking at the Manchester bombing.
How did I forget the Manchester bombing?
Yeah.
I heard the bomb that night.
Yeah.
I lived just down the road from there. I heard it. I was in bed. I'd gone to bed early. I heard it and went, oh, what's that? Rolled over and went back to sleep. If I'd have known what gone on, I'd have gone out, I'd have helped, but I just slept through it. You hear banging the 6 all the time. You're right, that's why we have around the town hall, that's why we have the metal posts and the concrete.
That's why you can't go to a concert or anything now with a bag bigger than a certain size. You stop
can't have liquids.
Security metal detectors everywhere you go.
Yeah. But 30 years ago, we had the same problem, and it was Irish terrorists.
Correct.
So terrorists do change. At the moment, we're going through a phase of Islamic terrorists. And once they've been beaten, there'll be other terrorists. The next threat we got will be eco-green terrorists. They were highlighted by the Americans and by the British Secret Service, the spies, 20 years ago, before 9/11, as this is the next terrorist issues we're going to face, will be the green issue. Killing people for using too much petrol, a bit like Extinction Rebellion, but killing people.
Really?
But then we had 9/11 and Islam took over as the terrorist threat. But once we've dealt with that, it'll be the green issue that comes back, and it looks like they could be taking lives next time.
And this is to do with by killing you, we're preventing climate change.
By killing you, we're going to save the world.
Right.
So that's the issue we're facing at the moment, is that the reason why Gove mentioned the 2 white far-right groups first is the same reason why Rishi Sunak outside 10 Downing Street was talking about far-right when he was talking about Islamist terrorists. Because in our country now, you've got to hedge your bets. Because if you just look at someone who's brown without saying, and white people are bad as well, white people are also bad, you're classed as a racist. What that does is that isolates and annoys a vast part of the population by saying, here we go again. We're the baddies again. We're killing no one, but we're also the baddies. It also then legitimises the other terrorists, because people in their community will go, well, that's why we've got armed response. That's why we're doing this terrorism, because we're scared of the far-right lunatics that the government's always talking about. Yeah. And they must be really good because they're always under the radar. Yeah. No one knows who they are because they're a lot smarter than us. We're just playing into this all the time.
Yeah, because people are... my view on that is, when I saw that, I just thought exactly what you thought. Most people would look at that, certainly most white people in this country would look at that and say, oh my God, this is pathetic, isn't it? Because they'll never have heard of those organisations before.
Now we've just advertised them as well. We've now given them an advertisement where we need to not speak about these tiny far-right groups, because they're not doing anything, they're not killing anybody. Yeah. So we should ignore them, and they'll just end up being people.
But you actually promote them by promoting them. Yeah. But it's just so clunky. It's just so clunky. And I would imagine, I don't know anything about these groups, but I would imagine they're no threat to anybody in this country, particularly.
There may be a threat to one or two people, like, you know, Muslim people or black people or Jews. There might be a slight threat to some people, but they're not a threat when you compare it to radical Islam.
Yeah.
Or when you compare it to the IRA 30 years ago.
Yeah.
They're not a threat on that level.
Well, I guess the question I'd ask you then, can you name them?
No.
No, so they're not. Because I think if they were a real terrorist threat, you're a very well-read man, Nick, so I think if they were a real threat, you'd know about them. You've never heard of them before. They might as well have included Lawrence Fox in that list.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, we've got that bad now about far-right white racism that if you stick stickers on lampposts, you're going to get 2 years in jail. You read about that last week, 2 weeks ago.
If you stick what on the lamppost?
Stickers. This guy was walking around where he lived putting stickers on lampposts.
Oh yes.
Got arrested. Some of the stickers said white lives matter. White people will be a minority in this country by 2050. That was the most controversial one. All the rest I don't think were controversial at all. That was the only one you could actually argue might be a bit controversial. But he said,
why is that controversial?
That's what I mean. It's hard. That's the only one you could argue that might be controversial.
Yeah.
But I don't think it is. But you could argue that one. And got 2 years in jail.
For what?
For creating racial division, incitement to violence, because these stickers...
Please tell me there's some sort of protest or some sort of, what's it called, fundraising to get him
No,
out.
because he was connected to what they call the far-right group, but he was arrested for putting stickers on lampposts.
Yeah, but...
I know.
The
government's constantly looking... The government really want a far-right enemy.
Yeah.
Because it'll make them feel better when they're tackling the radical Muslims, that we've also got a far-right enemy as well.
Yeah.
Does that exist?
Yeah. Well, I think we have got a far-right enemy, which is radical Islam. Because I don't see why any of the things they're not doing couldn't be regarded as far-right.
Because they're brown. Most of them are brown. So they're looking for far-right white terrorists.
Yeah.
As well as trying to tackle...
But they're almost saying, here's these far-right white groups, well, they're terrible, and here's the Islamic... But actually, they're all in the same pile over here, aren't they? Because, Islamic terrorists, the behaviours, the things they believe in, the things they profess, are to the extreme.
Far-right, yeah.
But nobody ever seems to say that, do they?
No.
I never heard Sadiq Khan saying, these far-right Islamic terrorists need to be stopped. No. But that's what they are. Yeah. Their views are horrifically to the right in terms of what they want to do to people and their behaviours. So that's another thing that is really irritating, this label of far right. Yeah,
anybody right of Jeremy Corbyn is far right.
Yeah, correct.
Basically, everyone's far right.
Yeah.
Everyone's far right.
Except for the Muslims.
But again, going back to goal, we're not tackling the real issue because we're too scared to tackle the real issue. It's exactly the same why we don't tackle knife crime. Because to tackle knife crime, you're going to have to disproportionately target young black men who in the police or government actively want to do that and ruin their career and be called racist. So rather than doing their job, just let them stab each other to death and die in pools of their own blood. That's better than me ruining my career over this. And that's exactly the same here. Rather than us tackling radical Islam and getting to the root of it and driving it out and supporting the Muslim community to also drive out these radicals from their community, let's not do anything and let's just call people far-right white racists, and in which case we'll let these people blow more kids up at arenas and we'll sing Don't Look Back in Anger again. We've discussed this before.
Yeah.
It's political cowardice.
Speaking of political cowards, we'll kind of segue into your mayoral campaign and Andy Burnham.
Yeah.
And the headlines which you alerted me today to, and close to home for me obviously, are that Andy Burnham has basically expressed a will to spend taxpayers' money to assist in the rebuilding of Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Now, I've read this article and I'm maybe less concerned than you are, but why are you concerned about... I'll tell you why I'm less concerned in a minute, but why are you concerned about this? Because
I'm tired of using taxpayers' money to support businesses or make businesses better. Manchester United is a business, a very successful business, world-renowned business. If they want to rebuild their stadium, then they need to pay for it themselves. But what Andy Burnham is saying is not so much that taxpayers are going to build a stadium. What he's saying is if you do that, we'll pay everything else around the stadium. Better networks, better trams, better buses, better trains, we'll do this, we'll do that, all on the back of you building a new stadium. Now, face value, you could look at that and go, well, that's a great deal, that's called regeneration. We could use the infrastructure, the building of a new stadium to regenerate the area and stuff like that. I get that. He wants to use the levelling up money of the north, which is not a lot of money. I don't see where that money could be spent. That money could be spent in so many other places that would mean so much more. Nothing wrong with the Old Trafford area. It's coped with the influx of people that you see every Saturday going to the match. If money was unlimited, then yeah. But I see this again as Andy Burnham using taxpayers' money, like he's done with the bus network, using taxpayers' money to create a huge project he can stick his name onto that's going to further his career so he can become Prime Minister eventually. This is just another big, huge project that will end up spiral out of all costs, because he'll say we only need 400 million to do and that'll be 9 billion, then it'll be 100 billion. If a business like Manchester United wants to improve an area and improve their business, go for it. We'll try to help you with the planning permission because we want you to do it, but ploughing more money into private businesses to improve those businesses, I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I was nearly of the same opinion of you on this, but then when I read into the detail, my understanding is he's going to leave the rebuilding of the stadium to Manchester United, to Ratcliffe and to the Glazers, but he's going to spend money in the environ of the environment, and it is actually pretty sort of tatty around there. So I think he could do some good stuff there, and I think that's good for two reasons. One is it generates work for people in Manchester in the building of it, and it generates a community environment and will foster business in that area as well. So I'm not opposed to the idea of spending money, and on the basis that Old Trafford attracts nearly 80,000 people whenever a game is on, to have a nice environment there where people can spend money before they come in, I think would be great, because there's like a little grotty row of shops down there and an old pub, and it's not great around Old Trafford, the environment. And I think,
I get that, I understand that. But you go to Bury or Rochdale or Middleton to a sink estate and tell them, we're going to spend all our money improving Manchester United and the area around Manchester United. And you tell them that.
Yeah.
There's other places we need to be spending that money that can have a bigger impact on the people who live in those areas.
Yes. Now that is a fair point.
Yeah.
If there's a limited pot of money, and I think you're right, there is.
Extremely limited pot of money, yeah.
Yeah, there probably are better places to spend it. But I don't think it would have a detrimental effect to do that. But you're right, there are probably far better areas to spend that
They
money.
build a stadium, and then the argument from the people who build the stadium is, we could do with a tram, the tram goes right past here, we could do with a tram stop that says Manchester United tram stop. And that's going to cost £50 million to put a tram stop there. We'll go halves with you on a tram stop there, and it'll be a council, private business partnership to build a tram stop there. I would support that.
Yeah.
If we need to redesign some of the roads because they're redesigning Old Trafford, and we needed that's council. The council should help redesign that. So there's some help the council should be doing, because that's their job, is maintaining that land and the road work and the transport network. But what he's saying is, I want this to be the Wembley of the North. What he's saying is, I want a legacy. In fact, I'll give you all the money, but you're going to have to call it, I'm not going to call it Old Trafford anymore, it's going to be called Burnham Way.
Yes. I mean, I think I do agree with you. He's obviously doing it for his own, his own machinations, his own motives and his own ambition. There's no doubt about it, because I think he's a scouser. He doesn't care about Old Trafford anyway, does he?
No.
I don't know who he supports, but
Everton.
He supports Everton. So why would he be bothered about Old Trafford anyway? If he was a true Evertonian, he wouldn't go anywhere near Old Trafford.
If he was a true Evertonian, he'd build a wall. A big, beautiful wall.
If he was a true Evertonian, he'd build a wall between Liverpool and Manchester, and not let any Manchester people go into Liverpool.
Yeah, well, he'd stop all the good footballers.
He'd stop, yes.
Yeah.
Not that there's that many left, but anyway. So the final bit I was going to ask you, and you might want to stop it here because you might not want to do this, but we're talking about you running for the Mayor of Greater Manchester. You obviously have a manifesto, and I just thought it might be entertaining and put you under a bit of pressure if you gave the gentle listeners an elevator pitch of your manifesto if you become the Mayor of Greater Manchester. And the elevator pitch is the idea that you and I get in a lift.
Yeah.
You say, "Oh, hi, I'm Nick Buckley. I'm running for the Greater Mayor of Manchester." And I say, "Oh,
what are you going to do?
Very pleased to meet you, Nick. We've got 5 floors. We've got 5 floors. What are you going to do for Greater Manchester?"
The first thing is I'll press the buttons under 5 so we stop at every floor. To give me a few minutes time. To give me a few more minutes. Yeah, I go like that. So we're now stopping at every floor. My pitch would be 3 points. Going to fix the police. The police are out of control throughout the country, failing, incompetent. But in Greater Manchester Police, the Mayor is also the Police Crime Commissioner. So I'm in charge of the Chief Constable. I'll be writing strategies for the police. If he doesn't like it, he'll be sacked. I'll get a new Chief Constable and get one with the same vision I've got. But Chief Constable at the moment's doing okay, so I think he'll be on board with that. Go back to basics. I want to hammer criminals. I want police waking up every day going, today's the day I get to hammer more criminals. I don't have to fill forms in, I'm not box ticking, I don't have to watch my pronouns, I'm not knocking on people's door going, you said hurty words on Facebook. Don't do that again. So we're going to get back to the old way of doing things, which is hammering criminals every day. My next point is civil service. We're in a mess because of incompetence and waste at the civil service level. So councils, probation, NHS, anything that's tax funded doesn't work to the level it should be. Why doesn't it work? Sometimes it's government policy, and I can't attack the civil service on government policy. It's not their fault that policies come down. It's the enacting of those policies in a competent manner that I'll be challenging. So if we have a top civil servant who buys a new computer system, that doesn't work. But that's incompetence. I'll be naming and shaming that top civil servant to the press, saying this is the person who's wasting our money. Someone else in the NHS spends £100,000 on rainbow badges. I'll be naming that person, unless it was instructed by a politician, I'll be naming and shaming them. I want to give top civil servants skin in the game. I want them to be sat at meetings going, does all this work? Does this project work? Because I don't want that crazy mayor of ours naming me to the Manchester Evening News and the BBC, using my name as an example of incompetence. Go back to your departments and check everything. That's what I want you to do, because I'm not willing to be embarrassed across the nation. That'll be a success, because that's what most business people do, is double check, triple check, hold people accountable. And my third point will be about driving. The motorist at the moment has got such a poor deal across the country, and I want Greater Manchester to buck the trend. I'm cancelling the CAS, but it's been cancelled anyway, but that still will be cancelled. Cameras are coming down. I'll be saying no to any ULEZ, to low traffic neighbourhoods, to 15-minute cities, to pay per mile, to congestion charges, having none of it. And to make sure we have none of it, I'll be appointing a motoring czar who'll have access to all policies, all ideas, all minutes of all meetings throughout Greater Manchester. And that person will be an early warning siren to say, look what's coming down the path here, look what they're trying to sneak in. And the reason why we need that is because the CAS, the Clean Air Zone, was sneaked in. No one knew about it until the signs went up. We should have known about that 2-3 years down before, so we could have sounded the bells. That's what my motoring czars are going to do. I want to make sure that motorists have a fair deal in Greater Manchester, because they're paying far too much to drive, and we keep hammering them all the time for more money. And I want to keep my car, and I'll make sure you keep your car as well.
Fantastic. Well, we're on floor 26 now, Nick, but it was worth it.
Right,
I'll vote for you. Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. The end of this particular edition of The Mayor and I with Nick Buckley, MBE. Please vote for him in the mayoral elections. Thank you.
2nd of May.
2nd of May. Thank you very much. Good.
If you like that video, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell and comment. And if you like what I'm saying about running for Mayor of Greater Manchester, then stick around. Tell your family, tell your friends. The only way I'm going to have a chance of winning is a grassroots movement. So be part of that movement and hit that bell. Thanks.